Welcome to Rewriting My Story, the podcast where healing meets growth and every chapter becomes an opportunity to rise stronger than before. I'm your host, and each week we dive into real motivations about resilience, self-discovery, faith, purpose, and the journey of becoming the best version of ourselves. Whether you're overcoming setbacks, learning to love yourself again, or stepping into a brand new season, this space is here to remind you that your story is still being written and you hold the pen. So take a deep breath, lean in, and let's keep writing our stories together. I'm done apologizing for choosing to grow instead of remaining stagnated. There comes a point in life where you have to ask yourself a difficult question. Who benefits from me staying the same? I learned that every time I made the decision to grow, someone became uncomfortable. When I started setting boundaries, I was told I was acting different. When I stopped answering every phone call and responding to every crisis, I was accused of changing. When I chose to protect my peace instead of carrying everyone else's burden, I suddenly became selfish. When I stopped explaining every decision I made, people assumed I thought I was better than them. What I've come to realize is that they weren't grieving the person I was becoming. They were grieving the version of me that was easiest for them to access. Every growth has a way of exposing relationships that were built around your limitations instead of your purpose. Sometimes people celebrate your dreams until those dreams begin to require boundaries, discipline, and even distance. Sometimes people cheer for your healing until your healing means they can no longer manipulate your emotions, depend on your constant availability, or expect you to abandon yourself for their comfort. That's often when you hear the words, "You've changed." My response today is simple. You're right. I have changed because I was supposed to. Imagine planting a seed in the ground and then becoming upset because it refused to stay buried. We would never expect a seed to apologize for growing into the tree it was created to become. Yet somehow we expect people to remain emotionally buried so everyone else can remain comfortable. Well, I refuse to live that way anymore. And I refuse to apologize because therapy has helped me heal. I refuse to apologize because I finally learned that healthy boundaries look like. I refuse to apologize because I no longer confuse love with self-sacrifice. And I refuse to apologize because I discovered that protecting my peace is not punishing someone else. It's simply being a good steward over the life God entrusted to me. For a long time, I confused loyalty with self-abandonment. I believed that loving people meant exhausting myself. I believed being kind meant saying yes to everything. Forgiving meant accepting repeated disrespect. And patience meant tolerating unhealthy patterns. But healing taught me something different. You see, Jesus loved people deeply, but he also modeled healthy boundaries. He loved those who rejected him without forcing himself into places where he wasn't received. He extended grace while remaining faithful to his purpose. So that reminds me that sometimes love looks like praying for someone while continuing to move forward in obedience. Many of us have spent years apologizing for growing because somewhere along the journey we confused shrinking ourselves with humility. It wasn't humility, it was fear. Fear of losing relationships, fear of being misunderstood, fear of hearing people say we've changed. But growth has never been something to apologize for. A caterpillar doesn't apologize for becoming a butterfly. And an eagle doesn't apologize because it was created to soar above the storm instead of remaining on the ground. You see, growth is not betrayal. Growth is obedience to the process God designed for our lives. We cannot sincerely pray, Lord, elevate me, while resisting the very change that elevation requires. We cannot ask God for healing while clinging to the habits, relationships, and environments that kept us wounded. We cannot ask for purpose while rejecting the pruning that prepares us to carry it. Growth will cost you something. Sometimes it costs comfort. Sometimes it costs familiarity. Sometimes it even costs relationships we thought would last forever. Yet what it gives us in return is priceless. It gives us freedom. Freedom from pretending, freedom from people pleasing, freedom from carrying guilt that never belonged to us, and freedom from constantly performing just to earn love. If you're listening to this today and you've been feeling guilty because your life looks different than it used to, I want you to hear this. Maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Maybe you didn't and don't react the way you once did because healing is working. Maybe you don't entertain chaos anymore because peace has become more valuable than proving a point. Maybe you no longer chase people because you've learned that relationships, it should be mutual. Maybe you rest more, pray more, and protect your heart differently because you finally becoming the person you spent years asking God to help you to become. Not everyone will have access to every version of you, and that's okay. Some people only knew the version of you that was surviving. Some knew the version of you that was broken, insecure, exhausted, and constantly seeking validation and approval from them. But everyone is not automatically entitled to the healed version of you. The healed version has boundaries. The healed version asks questions before saying yes. The healed version values peace over performance and purpose over popularity. The healed version no longer measures worth by how much is sacrificed for others. The healed version understands who God says they are. And because of that, you don't have to prove your value to anyone. Today, I choose to release the guilt that comes with changing. I release the shame of disappointing people who only benefited from my lack of boundaries. I release the pressure to remain the same simply because someone else is uncomfortable with my growth. I have finally learned that the greatest apology I could ever offer my past isn't saying I'm sorry. It's refusing to go back to the person I had to be just to survive. So from this day forward, I am done apologizing for choosing growth instead of stagnation. Growth isn't arrogance and it isn't selfishness. Growth is gratitude. It is honoring every lesson, every tear, every therapy session, every difficult conversation, every setback, every prayer whispered through heartbreak, and every ounce of God's grace that carried me through. If becoming healthier means I no longer fit into spaces where I used to settle, then I will thank God for the new room He is preparing for me. I wasn't created to remain stagnant. I was created to grow. And I will never apologize for becoming the person God has been shaping me all along. Thank you for spending time with me today on Rewriting My Story. If this episode encouraged you, inspired you, or reminded you that healing is possible, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who may need it too. Remember, Your past does not define you. Your future is still unfolding, and you are worthy of every beautiful thing ahead. Until next time, keep healing, keep growing, and keep rewriting your story.